Okay. So, there are two ways of looking at things. There are two ways at looking at things. Okay? You could have a problem. I'm trying to think of how to say this. You have a problem. Let's just say the problem is a cyclical trending of the sun and the planet and the universe. And every 10,000 years, 14,000 years, it gets cold or it gets hot. Okay. So let's assume that's true. Let's pretend that's true. So one belief with that specific scenario is that we have HARP and we have CERN to go and combat that type of global change, that type of climate change. That HARP and CERN are investigating the atmosphere, trying to figure out how to make it less aggressive. Oh, it's going to be aggressive, they say. They already said climate change is going to happen. But we're going to now penetrate the atmosphere with laser beams and HARP and CERN to go and find a way to make it less aggressive. Well, that's no different than saying, hey, let's get a VACCINE, and give you exposure to what you'd be exposed to anyway, so you might have a less aggressive reaction. So you see how those two arguments can make somebody believe that HARP and CERN is not doing anything to cause particle acceleration or major climate change, that it's being used to combat and make the situation less aggressive. Right? So hey, if someone wants to live in that world, fine, live in that world. That's fine with me. I'm not taking away that truth from you. Well, what about the other side of that truth? There's another argument. What would happen if HARP and CERN are making, and even Wi-Fi, I guess, are making the particles accelerate even faster? What if there wasn't really a 10,000, 14,000 cyclical type of thing in the universe and the sun and the planet, and that was just all made up? That was just put in the stories to condition us to accept and expect some kind of climate change when all the conditions are right and the system is ready to do a purge. What if that story was true? What if that was the indicator, hold on. Ugh. What if HARP and CERN was the one that was waking things up, waking up things in the immune system, waking up volcanoes, waking up earthquakes, waking up, waking up the weather, making the weather more aggressive? I mean, I came from the chemtrails world. That was my real introduction to all of this conspiracy stuff. And yeah, people are still pointing at the skies, and I understand that. And you're seeing the patterns, you're seeing the ripple effects from the frequencies that are influencing the clouds. Whether the clouds are fake or real, I'm not even going to argue that. Nothing is fake or real. Everything is just based upon influence and intention. Okay? But you see that there is instability. I mean, I was feeling it last night. Okay? Stomach pains. Sweating exponentially, like really sweating last night. Other people were feeling it too. Those who are immunocompromised, I mean, at this point, yeah, the cloudy weather or the hazy weather from the fires, they're going to be affecting those with respiratory issues, asthma. Kids are going to be affected exponentially, especially if they're immunocompromised. I mean, if it isn't obvious to you now, when will it be obvious that no matter where this climate change comes from, it's happening? It is happening before your very eyes. And of course, everybody has their ways of dealing with it. Everybody has, forget the speculation of where it came from and why. But people are dealing with it. They are actually feeling it. I mean, I have. And so major frequency shift last night. I was sweating so much. I was actually just scratching my head so hard last night. As I was sweating, I even ran downstairs to go and turn the AC down to 68 instead of 69 because I was sweating. Even my husband came upstairs instead of the couch because, I mean, he says he hates the bed, but I think every time he's on the bed and the frequency shift, his back hurts, and so he blames it on the bed. But he says he's still comfortable on the couch, so hey, that's fine. But he actually came up to the bed last night because he was up for 24 hours because he couldn't sleep, and then he had a tournament yesterday. So he finally just was so tired, and he's like, let's hang out for a minute. So yeah, I mean, we hung out in bed for a second, and then he fell asleep, and I'm just doing my thing, and he's just tossing and turning and stuff, and I'm up in between him tossing and turning, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, he sleeps better on the couch. I'd rather him be on the couch because it's easier for him, better for him, and then of course it's not as hot on my end. But I mean, either way, whatever, he's comfortable, but he really is more comfortable on the couch. But last night I was turning the AC down to 68 degrees because fuck, I was sweating and I was itching my head. And so I couldn't even get cool, and other people were feeling the same way. Hey, Audrey. And some are coming down with sicknesses. Others are on the verge to go to the hospital. The smoke is back. Okay. Particles are accelerating, and they are fucking people up. They're literally fucking people up. The heat is going to fuck people up. We've already had projections that next year is going to be even worse. Like El Nino is already here, but next year it's going to be even hotter. This is just a preview. This right now, what's going on right now, is a preview of how bad it's going to be even next year. If you can't condition yourself for this, imagine what's going to be like when it's fall, when it's winter, and then spring. And it's going to be worse than this. Fires, drought, suffering, particle acceleration, storms, either cytokine storms in people's bodies or major hurricanes. I mean, 94, 98 degrees in the Atlantic and the Pacific over there down south. That's major hurricane conditions. I mean, hello, these are indicators. Is anybody even paying attention? Are you even making any plans to figure out how you're going to save yourself from these crazy ass storms if you're on the peninsula, on the coasts? Okay? I mean, I don't know how many indicators you need, but I'm telling you, it's going to be fucking bad if it isn't bad already. Right now, it's showing you a preview with people already falling ill with cytokine storms. So imagine when all the conditions are right and they throw in some moisture and some more aggressive energy, and then storms are going so slowly over so many different cities. And when you are at the coast, and they're saying that even more hurricanes are going to cover more ground as the waters heat up because of this climate change. We're in some kind of apocalyptic revelation, some biblical shit that's going on. Okay? And so knowing that right now, major change is not going to happen when it comes to the medical system. Right now, people are just trying to get their sanity, okay, so they can deal with passing away without going crazy. And so most people are going to be going under the influence or under a doctor's care or trying to get the latest cure. And I get that. So what I'm proposing as far as yesterday's transmission, and then I'm just going to do a little bit of a recap, is really for the future and for other countries. Okay, like Switzerland or other places where it's like moderate climate. And so what I'm proposing, there'll be 3 different types of doctors. Okay, there'll be doctors that will be life doctors that will give you your life back, and they will help you deal with the pain, not by taking away or giving you antihistamine or antibiotic, but by saying that it's necessary. Blow your nose, release the demons, pull out your shit, give you some kind of sheet to help you remind yourself what you need to do to take care of yourself, as far as eating the foods, blowing your nose, releasing the demons type of thing. And give me 1 second, because I just want to make sure there isn't a troll coming on here. All right, so there'll be life doctors that will help people transition back on life and not give somebody the deadly remedies that are out there. Okay? And those are all the different oncology and the shots and everything else. Oh, okay. Hi, Bill. Bill Minier. Thank you. I hope you're going to be okay, my dear friend. Well, I'll be fine. I will be fine. Hi, Audrey. Okay. So, anyways, there's going to be life doctors. There's going to be those type of doctors like using my book as a platform. All right. And then they will do their tests and do other doctor stuff that doctors do. I'm not a doctor, but I know how to take care of myself. And what I'm doing, a doctor can do to himself, a doctor can do with his family, and a doctor can do with his patients. Okay? So what I'm doing is not really that far from what a doctor has the ability to do if he can open up his mind or her mind. All right? So death doctors using trauma and medicine to stop the energy of the body. Trauma doctors or death doctors are ones that do the surgeries, the ones that do all the different oncology, the ones that radiate you, the ones that do a bunch of crap to you. Those are the death doctors. Those are the ones that are taking away your life systematically, trying to not have you feel stuff. And I get it, especially when those are too far gone and they just want a little bit of peace on their way out before they rest in peace. And in this environment, it's going to be almost impossible to get any kind of peace or cures because the environment is shifting so aggressively. All right. So if you're going to be in pain, you might as well have it work for you. But that's a logic that's lost on many people who are so conditioned not to feel anything, who are so conditioned to be under the influence. All right. And then there's going to be triage doctors, surgically reattaching limbs if cut off in an accident. And then the client chooses if they're going to bring in a life doctor or bring in a death doctor. So if somebody gets to an accident and they get their limbs reattached or they get surgery or they get something done because they had to get a bumper pulled out of their ass, then they're going to choose whether or not they're going to go home and eat all food and pull out the shit, right? And so they go to the life doctor, helping them get their life back, get their limbs, whether if the limb is cut off and completely destroyed, that they grow it back and they have a doctor to watch them go through that process and help them through that pain. Because when you have some limb cut off and there's no way to reattach it because it was destroyed in a fire or something, then you have a life doctor that makes sure you eat the food and that you're going to handle the pain okay, because you have to feel pain and you have to keep releasing those damaged cells as the body then regenerates that hand, and that will be painful. I don't know if someone would want to go through that, but a doctor would assess if that's even necessary. And if they say that that's too much pain and too much work for that patient to regrow their arm or their leg or their hand or a finger, then they send them to the death doctor and they get all the antibiotics to make them feel comfortable. And then they could be in a cured status. But in this environment, there's no guarantee you're going to be cured and in peace, because when people have limbs and things missing and they have trauma to their body from surgeries or PTSD, this environment is going to bring everything up. There's going to be no guarantee someone's going to be in a cured status. Okay? And so triage doctors will then give the patient, the client, the choice. And so I've narrowed that down. So that was a kind of a recap from yesterday a little bit. And so another little bit of recap is the holistic world is the absolution for the medical surgical system, until death is the absolution for both the medical system and the holistic system, energy healing world. Okay, because the holistic world is when people are finally just through with the medical system. They don't get the relief. They're not getting any kind of guarantee that they're going to be pain-free. And they don't want all this disease to come up from all the different therapies, the public health therapies, because you're given things to trigger your body to develop life, to develop antibodies. And so when you're not told really how to support that kind of life-giving process, like a public health therapy, then people are not prepared to deal with it. They don't want to voluntarily get sick because they were told always to not ever get sick. So then they go to the holistic system and they ply themselves with so many aggressive herbs and extracts and tinctures and massage therapy to try to take away the pain. But again, that's not guaranteed. There is no real, there is no guarantee that you're going to be pain-free. It's just making you feel like you're doing something when you're really doing nothing at all, because you're still subject to the conditions of your environment. And so now you see why the holistic system exists, because they will be and are the scapegoats for the doctors. If you want to live, bring everything back to the doctors and demand they help you get your life back using food, not as medicine, and help you facing the demons of the pain, and stop mischaracterizing pain and symptoms, and stop promoting surgeries and transplants. And so it will be up to the patients to ask for this from the doctors. But you know how patients are. They're asking the doctors to take away the pain, to take away the organs, to take away things that they think are the demon because they don't know how to deal with it. Stop asking doctors, take away tonsils from your kid. Tell the doctor, teach my kid and myself how to blow his nose. To understand that food and milk is necessary. That this kid's finicky eating is not going to help him. He has to eat. That child has to eat. Can you force feed a kid? Well, that's the thing. That's the ethics. That's the morals and ethics that these doctors and these parents are having to deal with. Why are we allowing the kids dictate self-harm, which is starvation? That kid has to eat the meat, the milk, the cheese, the eggs, the fruits and vegetables, get over the food allergies. That's what it means to be a fucking parent. I don't care if the kids say, I don't want to eat that. If it's painful, okay, then you go to a doctor and say, okay, well, we need to blow your nose. You're going to have to deal with some pain growing up. Growing up is fucking painful. Do you know how many times I waking up to growing pains in my legs? And my mom's like, yeah, you got to suffer in silence. You got to. If she were to give me a pill for every single pain I ever had, I would be stunted. My growth would be stunted. And so at some point, parents are going to have to bite the fucking bullet and be the goddamn parent. But no, these parents don't do that. They allow the system to not only destroy them as parents, but destroy their children. And they allow their friends and family to reinforce that. And so it's interesting. The system will allow the parents to destroy their kids and themselves. And so you want to save yourself and your family, take it back to the source. Look inward at your lifestyle, your belief systems, your politics, your religion, your science and spirituality, and science dogmas, and ask the doctors to give you back what they took from you, or took away from you for centuries. Okay? You want your life back? And to save yourself from the Georgia Guidestones and the death, now or in the future, take it back to the source. You and your family doctor, Rockefeller Medicine. All right? And so right now, during all this stuff that's going on, as far as all the activism and everyone pointing to the skies or pointing to wherever, pointing everywhere but inside, while everyone's too busy looking up and looking down and all around, blaming, they're not looking within. They're not looking inward. That is the depopulation agenda. And I said, good luck. Laugh out loud. Ostriches with their heads in the sand, too worried about making tons of money and looking hot on Facebook, will continue with the depopulation agenda. And you claim to be an activist worrying about the medical system and the vaccines as you give your parents to the medical system, doing nothing to change the system at all except to advocate the traditions. And then you're crying about it, and you do all your meditation and your yoga and your diets completely oblivious. You're not even saying, hey, what about giving my dad or my mom some food? Oh, but it's painful. Why did you take away food for so many fucking years from my parents? Because they didn't want to feel the pain of the growth. They're not going to say this. But they'll be like, oh, because it's poison or no, nothing is poison. It's FDA approved. Why aren't these kids who are in their, like my age, 49, 50, and they're giving their parents to the hospital system, and they're crying about their parents suffering? Why don't you show them my book and say, you know what? This didn't have to happen. This did not. You show that when you're at the hospital system and your dad or your mom is in the freaking bed, and you show the doctor my book and say, this does not have to happen. None of this shit in this hospital did have to happen. But you guys kept taking away food from my parent. You kept giving them painkillers, kept giving them drugs. You kept giving them prescription drugs. You kept, taking away organs and doing surgeries that were unnecessary. You never showed them what it means to open up the system. Alimentary canal. You took anatomy and physiology class, doctor, nurse, didn't you? You know about the alimentary canal. You know the need and the importance of opening up your system to blow your nose. You know the importance of having to go poop. But do these doctors and nurses remember fucking anatomy, physiology? No, they forget all that because now it's the party line. It's up to the patients and the patient's fucking children to wake up the system and say, this does not have to happen. Okay? The person in that hospital bed that's suffering, that you're mourning because you already see them dead and you're just waiting for them to die. But at some point, someone's got to be like, hey, because it's going to happen to you, mom and dad. Especially if you're not trying to wake up yourself, if you're not, at home nursing your shit and releasing demons and pulling out the shit, it's going to happen to you and it's going to happen to your kids. And so when you think about it, most people are full of shit. And acknowledgement is the first step. You're full of shit. Some of you are not even attached to the medical system. There's no one in your family that's attached to the medical system, so you're just doing your thing and your kids are doing their thing, and I get it. Some of you have attachments to the medical system. Your either husband or your wife or your parents are in the medical system. And you're not even saying anything that didn't have to be that way. You have an opening, you have a platform to work from. You're in it. You're seeing the devastation the medical system and the holistic system has done to people. And you could be an amazing voice, but you choose to keep silent. So I say, don't do anything about it. Most people are full of shit, and acknowledgement is a first step. The second step is take the problem back to the source. You, because you're not speaking up. And Rockefeller medicine, it's going to take the patient and the next of kin to speak the fuck up, but people don't. Because you know why? They're full of shit. So pretty cut and dry. You can finally stop wasting your time giving people absolution, because most people have already absolved themselves, but they need you to blame. And there are people in the J world that are in the medical system, yes, but also have friends and family that are in the medical system that are actually a patient. And you have a very perfect platform to start the change, to wake up the doctors and nurses and tell them, look, this is what you guys have advocated, this is what you guys have supported, this is what you guys have done. There is a way out of this shit. But this is not okay. And I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. Most people are not ready to really make change. They're all about blaming and crying and acting like a fucking victim, but they're not willing to take a fucking stand for their family, their friends, and their fucking community. But they're all about, oh yeah, activism against the V's. Oh yeah, look at this, look at that, look at me, all beautiful. So I'm saying activism is just another thing to... And so I will say this, to those that maybe finally wake up and see what I'm talking about, I do not advocate violence of any sort. Just so you know, I do not advocate violence on anyone or anything. Well, why do you say that? Because young people are. When they finally wake up to what's going on in the system, and you look at what the system is doing to their friends and family, and you look at all the people with their licenses, it's easy to go and blame them. No, remember, they're just following orders. They were taught by academia who was following orders from somebody else. Okay? And so I do not advocate violence of any sort. You can peacefully get your point across, and there is no enemy. You are your own worst enemy when you don't speak up and say, hey, maybe something needs to change. This isn't correct. This isn't right. This is so wrong, and this is horrific to these poor people. There's a way to ask for your life back, okay, without putting the doctors and the nurses on defense. And when you are like a power of attorney for somebody, you could still express that what they did to their mother and their father was not okay. It didn't have to be that way. The slow starvation was torture. All of the surgeries and the drugs and the pills and the powders and the extracts and the energy healing bullshit was torture to my mother, my father. And look where they are now. They are a skeleton. They are suffering astro-fucking-nomically. They are starving. And you can make a point to say that to those that are right on the front lines, because they're the ones that they're either gonna get out of that fucking business or change it. One of the two. But you not saying anything is allowing that situation to happen. I can't change on the outside as far as the medical system. I could change society's perception of things, but it takes a person who's a patient or a person who's a doctor or a nurse or a person who is taking care of someone who is a patient to speak the fuck up and change the system and give people another opportunity in something else, another choice. And so you are your own worst enemy. There's a way to ask for your life back without putting the doctors and nurses on defense. But you must develop a very credible argument. all food is the answer. And understanding your alimentary canal from your mouth to your anus is the other part of the answer. Doctors and nurses had to go through anatomy and physiology class. They know the human systems. Remind them of that class. And some are just CNAs. What are CNAs? They are certified nursing assistants. All they do is either check, I don't know, they don't have the power of the registered nurses, so they may not have taken any anatomy and physiology class. I don't know. I've never been certified as a CNA or as an RN or as an LVN, a licensed vocational nurse. But I know if you're an RN, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree. LVN, you're on your way up to that. A CNA, you don't need any degree except for certification for certain things. Okay, so some people are nurses, but they've never had the education behind the anatomy and physiology. So yeah, they're absolved from this. All they're doing is just making sure people don't hurt themselves while they're dying. Okay, you see how fucked up that is? And so I wanted to remind people that they are slowly starting to combat these food allergies. Okay? And everything is going to start with the children. That's why the Cleveland Clinic, that allergist, that doctor who is slowly introducing peanut proteins to a child's immune system. Hello. Well, they are getting that person to finally deal with peanut allergies and not die from them, to give them the tolerance. They call it protection. Why would you fucking protect yourself from fucking peanuts? Are you serious? To say that the body is now having to protect itself from food? That's how fucked up the medical system is. They say, oh yeah, the more you introduce the peanut allergy, the more you'll get protected. Okay. No, the more you release those fucked up demons that are making you turn into anaphylaxis. The peanut allergy actually is the peanut proteins are probably giving the nutrition that the kid's missing. The body has demons and it's bringing up those demons. That food had a nutrient that gave the body some kind of arsenal to release the demons. It's not that the peanuts are fucking poison. Nothing is poison in the food supply. Anything FDA approved is not poison. Cut and dry. So the reason why people have reactions because they have so many demons within from all the trauma, from so many surgeries and pills and powder supplements and detoxes and pharmaceuticals and shamans and herbs and extracts and other wartime, PTSD and other types of stuff, domestic violence and abuse. That person has to feel stuff. And that food happened to have all the right things that it needs to push out the fucking demons. But look how the doctors still characterize it as something to protect your body, is something to be protected from. It's from a peanut. And so some of the adults are too far gone. And the system may not have the infrastructure to help adults get through all the food allergies. So it's going to be up to the adult to introduce milk slowly into their intake. It's going to be up to the adult to slowly bring in stuff. And if they can't, if they're too afraid, then they have to go find a doctor to help them through that. And so these allergy clinics usually deal with treatments and antihistamines, which develops more of the problem. So when I had those seasonal allergies around springtime with all the pollen, my mother was plying me with Benadryl and I was always tired. Triaminic, all the different allergy medication. And that develops more demons. All medication develops more demons. And so I told you what they're doing with the article. And so mothers with children with food allergies need to take the same model of introducing the peanut proteins and take that to that allergist. I suggest you read that article, and if you're in the Ohio area, you just inundate that Cleveland Clinic, that doctor, with so many of your emails that you have a kid that has a shellfish allergy, you have a kid that has, or even you, I guess, hell, why not, has a tomato allergy, has a sugar or a salt allergy. What's a salt allergy? Oh, because you're on a low fucking sodium diet. You have a sodium allergy. And so you want them to help you introduce salt to your fucking diet. I want you to hold the goddamn doctor's feet to the fire by intelligently bringing in a scenario that they can't argue with. And just because they're a doctor and they have specific context of how they say stuff, oh, low sodium diet, low sugar diet, gluten-free diet. Yeah, because of intolerance, because of allergies. What are allergies? When you get symptoms. That's what allergies are. You get symptoms from something because you were not prepared to deal with life. You were told life is horrible. You were told that life is something to be snuffed out, oncologized out, herbalized out, remedied out, and to be destroyed at the micro level, and then eventually end up in hospice at the macro level. I want you to hold these doctors and nurses to account, but in an intellectually appropriate, intelligent way. And if that means that you have to learn how to write, then learn how to fucking write. But it's going to take someone who is intelligent, that can put words together, that can speak to save their own family and to change the system. Because you're up against these doctors and nurses with actual degrees that know how to play the word games, that know how to go and say, well, I'm the fucking doctor. You're not. You don't have a degree. But remember, they deal with death. They promote death. The outcome is fucking death. And because just look at your mom and your dad sitting there suffering in the hospital bed and you're doing nothing about it. So then, now we're seeing these 20-year-olds in college, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds. They're playing sports. Skinny as a rail, all muscular. And they don't realize the fucking climate's changed. They don't realize it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. It's taking more resources away from their kid. And the kid's at a deficit because the mom was at a deficit. And so this 20-year-old was found unresponsive. They did some investigation. It wasn't the full investigation, but they're saying they don't see any foul play. And so they'll do more investigation. The autopsy has not been released yet. But she was found unresponsive. Most likely a heart attack or a stroke. Most likely. But that's not the only person. There's other kids that are in college or in high school or in elementary school that have died on the field. They got a heart attack or a stroke or had some respiratory condition and they choked on their own vomit or choked on their own mucus. And so she had 18 years under her parents to get her body conditioned for the current aggressive environment, to not just play sports. And so now it's up to the parents to realize that the world's changed. Do their children have what it takes to do these hard charging sports? To be out in the sun all the time? I mean, you need some sun. But this air is pretty bad. The air is either so dry that's going to suck the life out of a kid and the parent, or it's going to be so humid that there's so much bacteria and things in the air. And you have now the smoke from the Canadian fires now descended upon Ohio. And these kids are breathing this shit in and it's ripping them apart. All right? And so are you conditioning your kid's body to be able to handle these crazy ass things that are going on and to finally look at their own predisposed issues? You see, here's the thing. When you're told that you have a very narrow timeline to be successful, that you have this formula, that you have first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, high school. And then from high school, you go on your European trip and you come home. Then you go to college. Then when you go to college, you have to then, you're doing sports or you have some kind of, scholarship. And so you really can't sit back and relax and get your life back because you are on this really aggressive, narrow train that these parents were forced into even when they were kids. And so they're traditionalizing the same formula to the kids now who can't afford to be going on that fast, aggressive train. And maybe some of these cerebral kids that are not being groomed for sports might have a chance because they're home more often than not. They're inside, they're painting, they're drawing, they're coding, they're writing, they're doing formulas, they're developing websites. Okay, but then you have these kids that are all about their bodies and sports. And they're out there just sucking in the crazy ass air and they're taking away more substance from themselves that it'll just take another aggressive frequency shift and bam, they're done. And so I said, once her body is conditioned for the environment, then it might be possible to play sports. But then that time might pass, right? She might be too old. So 18 years to figure it out, parents. Unfortunately, kids have no choice. These kids have no choice. They're allowed to be finicky. They're allowed to say, they're allowed to just, do whatever the hell they want. The parents don't understand because they haven't taken care of themselves, really. They're under a doctor's care or homeopathic care. And so then I say, you know what? We hope they survive their childhood. We hope they survive their adulthood. And so, yeah. But if there's a discerning parent who understands what's going on and they actually have a parenting instinct and they know how to say no to their fucking kid, and they realize that their kid has come in at such a deficit, the parents have their issues they have to get over, but they know their kid has some issues. Now you're going to have to fight to keep your kid alive. Literally, you have to fight to keep your kid alive. And it might mean your kid not liking you. And then that has its own issues. See, I don't know how these parents are going to do it. To fight to keep that kid alive because the kid doesn't know any better. They don't understand the world's changed. The kid has predisposed issues because mom and dad has predisposed issues. And they will hate you. And so then what do parents, they don't want to fight the fight. So that they let their kid do whatever the hell they want because they don't have it in them. And I get that too. I understand. And so no matter what, these kids don't really have a chance. They really don't. Because once you fight for your kid's life, there's going to be a battle, and that battle can destroy both. And if you fight, then it could destroy. And if you don't fight, it's not going to matter. Because the kid's going to do whatever, you're going to do whatever, and the kid will just end up, rolling the dice. And they might survive, they might not. You never fucking know. Because no one was able to take control of the situation. Because they were never taught to. And so for those who are not aware of particle acceleration, this is also why we are in major aggressive climate change. We must do things differently to survive. So remember, HAARP has those long antennas that are in Alaska. And there's it's an acronym. Let me see what the acronym is. I don't have it memorized. But HAARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Is a University of Alaska Fairbanks program which researches the ionosphere, the highest ionized part of Earth's atmosphere. Okay? So you have HAARP, right? That studies the ionosphere. Then you have CERN, which is particle acceleration. You can Google particle acceleration. It's no different than your AC unit blowing air, hot or cold air. So you have a heating unit and you have an AC unit, and that's basically particle acceleration. But imagine it on major aggressive blast, where it actually could rip you apart. Okay, that's particle acceleration. You have so many radio frequencies that are being accelerated. It's all particles. It's these molecules that are atoms, that are protons, neutrons, electrons. All right. And then they get collided and they blast and they do all these different things. And so you have HAARP that measures the ionosphere and does stuff. You have CERN, the particle acceleration, the amplifiers to amplify all the chemtrails, all those who are chemtrail activists. Yeah, the CERN amplifies all that aluminized minerals that you're seeing in those chemtrails that you guys are mentioning, that they're full of barium and other types of heavy metals. Okay. And so it makes them really conductive. And that's why storms are crazier. Then you have Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, and you have the cell towers, and you have it in your house. So we're now at 5G. We know eventually it'll go to like 7G or 8G in the future. And you can Google when that's going to happen if it hasn't happened already, but they're not saying it's being rolled out. But we are in 5G. All right. So aggressive. So HAARP and CERN and Wi-Fi. HAARP, chemtrail patterns of weather modification, CERN, particle acceleration, Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, equals aggressive climate change. Now, you could say that they're combating it or they're developing it. You can play whatever side you want. I don't care. No matter what, we're in fucking climate change. All right? And so you can be a traditionalist in this society if you want to survive. But you can't be you can't be a traditionalist in this society if you want to survive. You're going to have to break your traditions. When I was arguing with somebody about that, about Campbell's, because I came from the chemtrails world, but I've kind of evolved from the chemtrails world, and I'm seeing that they're stuck in there and I can't get them out. It's not for me to do. So I just take whatever memes and I go and modify it. And so people are really afraid of the food supply because they don't understand that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. So you can take fat from a pig and take those specific elements that are in the fat of a pig, in the collagen of a pig, and grow the proteins, replicate them in a lab, and make sure the conditions are right for it to grow. And so then that little particle that grows into a collagen is not some sentient being that has thoughts and feelings and fears and emotions. But when we are enslaving animals, getting them ready to slaughter, that's some cruel shit. Believe me, I understand now where the vegans and vegetarians come from, but I'm not willing to save something to kill myself at the same time. No. So it's a transition. So that's what genetically modified is taking something that had to be somewhere in one area, that had to be done in one area, and they replicate the environment and all of the constituents, the ingredients of that specific thing, and they replicate it in a lab. So it's cruelty-free. You're not raping the earth. Okay, you're not doing anything to the earth to grow your food. You're not hurting the earth. Maybe back then when it was like, I don't know, 1 billion people, it was okay to have farms and have your crops and all that. But then we realized that animal cruelty is a thing, and then it turns people really crazy when they are having to be cruel to animals and cruel to themselves and their children and everything else. And so that we see what turns out from that. And then we're realizing that now with all these people on this earth, we got to do something differently, but we have to scale it down, but we have to now take things to the lab. And so even though Africa and India may be doing farms and growing their stuff, because they are growing people, they're going to be, they're going through their own climate change and rapid reproduction, and then eventually there'll be a decline. But during that process of them on the incline, they're going to do their farms and do things the way we did. We're now on the decline. We were an experiment. So we had an upsurge, an upclimb, where we had all the farms and the factory farms and the agriculture. Now we're on the decline. And so all the farms and all the agriculture type of stuff that I'll say all agriculture, some agriculture will be done away with, and it'll be lab created, or they might be shipped from somewhere else. I don't know. But we're going to now save the land, save the animals. And I'm sweating right now, so holy shit. And so we're doing things differently. And so if I can get meat that's cruelty-free, if I can get fat that's cruelty-free, if I can get milk cruelty-free, if I can get collagen cruelty-free, hell fucking yeah. All right? And so Campbell's is a great product. And so that person posted that Campbell's is GMO, genetically modified. It means it's poison. Everyone's all freaking out. And I said, Campbell's is a great product. Nothing is poison. Everything is elements, electrolytes, minerals, fat, protein, and vitamins, pro-hormones, right? We're going into a very complex universe, and you can't be too simple with your food. You won't have what it takes to deal with the energy conversion. And so this point is so aggressive right now, and the CERN particle acceleration is ripping people apart, literally, they are. And people are lacking substance. And so when you're so skinny and you're not reinforcing your body and releasing the demons, this particle acceleration is ripping people apart. It's causing them stomach problems. It's causing them so much pain. They don't know how to respond to the pain. So they go and apply more antibiotics and more surgeries and more things that will harm them until there's nothing left. And so you need all the minerals and fats and proteins you can get. And so genetically modified is not poison. It's just energy that is converted. What do you mean converted? Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. Again, you can take the fat from an animal and replicate that in a lab, and it doesn't have to be attached to an animal that has thoughts and feelings. But people who don't understand biology, understand physics and chemistry, they're going to be all emotional about shit. But they allowed people in their world who were also radicalized by those who are meant to depopulate them. They made them all afraid of stuff, and a lot of it's the religious people. Extremely religious people who don't understand physics and science and biology because they're so religious. And so then they're all emotionally tied to the stories. They don't understand the laws of physics, the laws of biology, and the laws of science. All they believe is the stories. And they're all about love, right? And so this is not your ancestors' world. Because they were growing crops, 100 years ago doesn't mean that in this environment you can really grow crops. It's not going to be enough. You need more than just your crops. But then you don't want to be putting your animals in fear of having to be under the chopping knife, because that can't be a life for those poor animals in a farm, whether it's a small gentleman's farm or a large factory farm. So now we have to be civilized. We got to do shit differently. This is not your ancestors' world, traditionalists. We're in a new world. We're in a civilized world now. America has to come up, or else you're going to go back down and go back to being a caveman. And you're seeing it right now. People are trying to go back to being a caveman, hurting each other, bullying each other, starving each other, trying to force convert each other. Oh, it's bad. Remember, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. Fat comes in all different forms. Collagen can come in all different forms. Amino acids can come in all different forms. Prohormones can come in all different forms. Minerals can come into all different forms. Just because it doesn't come into the form that you're used to doesn't mean it's not minerals and the fats and the proteins your body needs. Of course they are. Just because it doesn't come in the form that you're used to doesn't mean that it's not what your body needs. Of course it's what your body needs. But people are only, remember, they don't evolve. People don't evolve. They want to stay traditional. They want to stay in one place, in one form, in one way, in one belief, in one meaning. They don't understand the evolution context. So people must understand physics. The depopulation agenda is the fear of change, radicalizing people against change. Then they starve themselves, and the animals are suffering under the cruelty of all kinds of farms. I'm sorry, but the world is changing. A highly conductive environment means you must eat more than usual to make up the difference. And since biotech genetically modified the people, because you're all genetically modified, you walk into a place, someone's sharing proteins with you, you are being genetically modified. It's metastasized in you, and then either you'll get cancer or you will evolve and become smarter. One of the two. Being around people who are smarter or dumber will determine your future. And then when you try to resist someone that's smart or dumb, then you'll be always in resistance and cause stress and then breakage. Or you assimilate and somebody's going to either devolve you or you're going to evolve them. And when they're trying to take you down, then you block and delete so that energy doesn't destroy you. No different than me. I can be very evolutionary, just like the VACCINESs. They're evolutionary to people who can't handle evolution, and they were never taught how to deal with evolution. So when they get a V and they get adverse reactions, they don't know how to respond to it, and then they think they're being poisoned and being destroyed, when all you had to do was eat food and release the fucking demons and you'd be fine. But people were never taught that. That's why evolution can destroy people, because they don't know how to respond to evolution. All they know how to do is resist evolution. That's the depopulation agenda. And so, a highly conductive environment means you must eat more than usual to make up the difference. And since biotech genetically modified the people, because you all are genetically modified, you must eat the genetically modified food for your environment and your body, because the atmosphere is highly aggressive. There's no such thing as organic. There's no such thing. Organic means that you're cured. Nobody is cured in their environment if they don't want to survive. You can't be cured in an environment that's so dynamic if you want to survive. You can't. Obviously, look at everyone who's gotten all their surgeries and all their different remedies and all these things, and they have to keep taking more and more and more, and they're still in fucking pain. So that ought to tell you that's not fucking working. It means you have to deal with it differently. It's all physics. It's all thermodynamics. But if you're not willing to understand physics, you'll be easily manipulated into emotions and fear. And so when you are really skinny and in a highly dynamic environment and you're taking food away from yourself, you think you're going to handle energy conversion, you will be energy conversioned out of existence, because you won't have enough energy to deal with climate change and with your body releasing. You'll have heart attacks and strokes or complete vital organ shutdown because you lack the substance. And so I want to be bigger than usual. I want to be like Demi Lovato when she was in Eurovision. She had the tan skin, the long white hair, and she was really hefty in that. Like, she was robust. She looked like what you need to be in Norway. Okay? You need to have the insulation. You need to have the weight on you, and that gives you intelligence. When you have a little bit of a belly, or even more of a belly, that's intelligence. Okay? When you have more weight on you, that's intelligence. That's evolution. When you're so skinny, it's not evolution. You have nothing to evolve into. You have to stay the same and then die when you're that skinny. But when you're so obese, you have so much intelligence that it could be what do you call it? Strangulating or suffocated. When you have too much intelligence, it suffocates you. When you have very little intelligence, which means very little fat and you can have so much muscle and not enough fat, and it means that you wouldn't be able to handle a climate change, because the muscles, what do you call it? what is it? Something cardiomyopathy. When the muscles of the heart walls break because there's no give, there's no fat, there's no adipose tissue. So you can have a highly muscular woman or man, and they could be African American or white, and they're very muscular, and they wouldn't survive climate change because they hardly have any fat. They can't handle salt or sodium. So they're on low sodium diets. Maybe they're on high fat diets, but it's not doing anything for them, or it's suffocating them. And those are on low fat diets, high protein, so getting more muscle, no give. You think that's going to be survivable? No. You've got to have a combination of muscle and fat and collagen, and you got to eat all food in the food supply. Get over all the food allergies. You need to have the sodium, you need to have the fat and the sugar and everything, and your body needs to process it appropriately and effectively. But when you have intolerances to sodium or salt or sugar or fat or any kind of milk, meat, cheese, eggs, fruits, and vegetables, all that, if you have any kind of intolerance, it's going to cause even more intolerance and starvation. And then it died suddenly in a very aggressive environment. And many people are under that type of situation, a died suddenly, because of their intolerances to food and the environment and their intolerances to evolution. And that's sad. But some of you are in a really good position to finally take a stand for yourself and for your children and for your parents who may be too far gone, but at least you can take a stand for them. But some of you will not take a stand because you won't do anything to get to mar your image that you have carefully crafted on Facebook and in your family and your friends and your community. You will not take a stand. You'll do it kind of, sort of, superficially to make it look like you're doing something. But when the money, when what do you call it? When the rubber meets the road, you're gone. You're not doing shit. You're still gonna do the same thing you did before, even prior to the J world. That was just another passing fancy, something trendy. And that's most of the J world, not all of it. There's a few people that actually will take a stand for themselves and take a stand. But I would say most of the J world, and even outside the J world, they won't take a stand for themselves because their image is much more important than saving their own life and their family's life. And that's what I'm up against. That's why the system is not really worried about me, because they know how programmed most people are, and they're heavily programmed, and they're willing to die for their beliefs. Thank you for your service. More food for me. Bye.